Welcome back everyone to Flag Football Fridays. This is week 7, where we're trying to teach you the basics of flag football. My name is Matt Holmquist, and I'm the coordinator for sport programs here at the University of Texas at Arlington. Each week of Flag Football Friday builds upon the last. Therefore, it's important to watch all of the previous videos before continuing with this one. We're going to talk about week 4 quite a bit this week. Fouls, penalties, and down situations. A foul is an illegal action or rule infraction. The categories of fouls are live ball fouls, dead ball fouls, or fouls simultaneous with the snap. Each foul has a prescribed consequence or penalty for that foul. Once we've determined what the foul is and what the penalty is for that foul, we begin the process of enforcement. You can review fouls and penalties in week 4. This week, we'll talk about penalty enforcement and spots. Enforcement has a number of components that help us get it right. First, we determine what type of play the foul occurred in. We will talk about loose ball plays, running plays, and how to determine which category of play the foul occurred during. Then we find our basic spot. The basic spot is a point of reference for penalty enforcement, and it is merely a point of reference. We will not always enforce from the basic spot, but once we find this point of reference, we can then determine if we will be using it for enforcement or using a different enforcement spot. There are also special enforcements in flag football for certain fouls and plays. However, we won't cover those in this series. Flag Football Fridays is designed to simply explain the basics of flag football so that players can be more aware of the game and officials can begin with a better foundation of the game itself. Officials' trainings at camps, tournaments, or on campus will get deeper into special enforcements. Here I've included a simplified field and a simplified scenario to help us identify different spots on the field. Remember that our line of scrimmage is where the ball starts off. Let's pretend that after taking the snap, a player runs with the ball about 15 or 20 yards and then is deflagged. The previous spot is the spot where the ball was last snapped. The succeeding spot is the spot where the ball would next be snapped if a foul had not occurred. The end of the run is when a run happens and the ball becomes dead or a player loses possession. A run can happen after a catch, or there could be no pass throughout the down, and the whole down could simply be one long run. When it ends, that's the end of that run. The spot of the foul is where a foul occurs. This could be behind the line of scrimmage, in front of the line of scrimmage, but behind the end of the run, or it could be in front of the end of the run. Remember that we also have a basic spot. This is a point of reference to help determine the enforcement spot. The basic spot could be any number of these spots on the field. As previously mentioned, we will not be covering special enforcements. For dead ball fouls and fouls simultaneous with the snap, we have a prescribed spot that those fouls are always enforced from. A dead ball foul, which occurs while the ball is not live, is always enforced from the succeeding spot. Fouls simultaneous with the snap, such as illegal shift or illegal motion, are enforced from the previous spot. The enforcement spot on these fouls will always be the same. However, for live ball fouls, it can change. That is why we have the all but one principle. If we have a live ball foul, we first go to the all but one principle, and we start with the type of play, find the basic spot, and then determine the enforcement spot. Remember that the different types of spots that we can have include the previous spot, the end of the run, the succeeding spot, or the spot of the foul. So how do we determine which one we use? Well, for live ball fouls, we have the all but one principle, which states all fouls are enforced from the basic spot, except for fouls by the offense if the foul is behind the basic spot. Well, how do we determine what that basic spot is, that spot of reference? Well, it depends on the type of play, so that's why we need to start there. The two types of plays we have are a loose ball play and a running play. For each of these types of plays, there is a prescribed basic spot. The basic spot, the point of reference for a loose ball play, is the previous spot, and the basic spot for a running play is the end of the run. This will always be the case. Remember, we don't always enforce from the basic spot, but the basic spot for these types of plays are always the same. Once we determine this, we can determine whether it falls into the all or the one in the all but one principle. All fouls are enforced from the basic spot, except for fouls by the offense behind the basic spot, which is the spot of the foul. This is how we determine what our enforcement spot is. Let's go through some examples of penalty enforcement. In this simple example, the quarterback will take the snap, run down the field, and be fouled by the defense. Let's say the defense pushes the offensive player before they finish their run. This is illegal contact. Once we've determined the foul is illegal contact by the defense, we need to figure out, when did this play happen? What type of play was it? Well, this occurred during a run, so it's a running play. After this, we determine the basic spot, which is our point of reference. Remember, what's the basic spot for a running play? The end of the run. Now, since it was a live ball foul, we go to our all but one principle, which says all fouls are enforced from that basic spot except for fouls by the offense behind the basic spot. Does this fall into the exception, or does this fall into all fouls? This was not by the offense, it was by the defense. Therefore, our exception does not apply. We will enforce it from the basic spot being the end of the run. Therefore, we enforce this illegal contact by the defense at the end of the run. Here's another example. The offensive player is going to take the snap and run down the field. At this point, the offense fouls the defense. Let's say we have illegal contact. So our foul is illegal contact on the offense. What type of play did this occur under? Well, it occurred during a run, so therefore it happened in a running play. Again, what is our basic spot for a running play? The end of the run. Does it fall under the all but one principle? All fouls are enforced from the basic spot, except for fouls by the offense behind the basic spot. Well, this foul happened in front of the basic spot, even though it was by the offense, so therefore it does not fall into the exception. We're going to enforce it from the basic spot, so therefore our basic spot is also our enforcement spot. We're going to enforce from the end of the run against the offense. Since we'll determine how to put fouls into categories such as a run play or a loose ball play next week, this week we're going to stick with running plays. The quarterback takes the snap and runs down the field, but this time flag guards. We have a flag guarding at this spot. The foul is a flag guarding by the offense. Again, this occurred during a run, so it is happening during a running play. The basic spot, our point of reference for all running plays, is the end of the run. Remember, the basic spot is merely a point of reference, not the end-all be-all for enforcement. So let's go to the all but one to figure out if the basic spot is what we will be using. All fouls are enforced from the basic spot, except for fouls by the offense behind the basic spot. Well, this foul occurred by the offense, and the location of the foul is behind the basic spot, which is the end of the run. Therefore, our exception applies, and we will enforce this penalty from the spot of the foul. Next week, we'll talk about how to determine if a foul falls into a loose ball or a running play category. This will put the final piece of the puzzle together in enforcement. We'll also include some more examples and complexity of penalty enforcement, so hopefully it relates a little bit more to real-life flag football.